share the counter, we share the copier, we share the sink, we share the coffee pot, we share everything. So we're really one office but two separate departments. So in looking at this, putting one employee that is shared between the two departments and enhancing the job description that we have, Dan and I worked on enhancing that to meet the needs, the current needs of the supervisor's office, but also the current needs of the assessing office. Because as assessing laws change and different degrees of levels of things that we have to do in assessing office, this will give the opportunity for this person also to get possibly their MCAT. In fact, it's one of their requirements that they would be open to getting their MCAT licensing and then maybe go to their second level of that to where they could actually do some sketching. The GIS maps, which I talked about last night, that we're finally done with those. But one of the components with the GIS mapping is to have the licensing to work on that is very costly. So it's on one computer. So, that way we could get this person trained to update the maps. Whenever I do a lot split or a combination, the map can be updated automatically. And then each department can insert that page right into their maps. So we're looking at enhancing and giving a more efficient service, I think, to our residents by doing these in a combined sense and working together. I don't know if you noticed, but just a few minutes ago, I ran down the hall to get some copies for Dan. That shows we work together. And I think we'd like to keep that department working together. Previously, many years ago, that position was a full-time position, and it was with combined between the two offices.
So what is the next step after tonight, if this is approved?
Job will be posted.
It'll be posted.
Yeah, it will be posted, and then we'll start receiving applications and reviewing them. And we would like, hopefully, that we'll be able to utilize Kathy for a week or two of training, at least on the GIS maps, so, before she leaves us.
She may never leave. No.
Well, I think her house is real close to being sold,
right.
so, yeah.
She certainly knows where the bodies are buried because she's been here and worked in so many departments.
Yeah.
And she's such a valued employee, so.
She is.
Both the people that work in your office, the supervisor's confidential secretary and Ms. Klein have been very good employees.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion.
Supervisor.
Oh, Trustee White?
Thank you. Are there a couple of applicants already in mind for this position or not?
No.
I note that you list all of the supervisor's duties and assessor's duty. And for example, for the assessing duties, obtained the Michigan Assessing Technician Certification and Michigan Certified Assessing Officer within the time frame set forth by the assessing coordinator. Mm-hmm. What is an appropriate time frame for that?
Well, I would think that the first one, the MCAT, is a very kind of easy one to obtain. It's a 2.5-day class. It's very low cost. So I think that one should be done within the first year, probably within the first 6 months, I would say, because it's offered usually once a month somewhere pretty close locally too. The second one is a little more time-consuming one, so I would think that would be about a year and a half out.
And I would think the second one is just to more or less be a file clerk to take care of the affidavits, PREs, and the sales disclosures. Same thing with the third one, digitized files and references. Same thing with the fourth one and the fifth one update. But says minimum qualifications: must possess a bachelor's degree or equivalent prior work experience in a general office setting. Knowledge of township structure and organization, a plus. A bachelor's degree in, that's on the second page, Coordinator Stevenson, under required knowledge, skills, and minimum qualifications. First one.
Are you asking a question?
Right, the type of bachelor's degree. It just says, must possess a bachelor's degree or equivalent prior work experience. Assessing is something that must be 100% correct.
Yeah, I think that we would look at each individual for what sort of experience they have. I can't say that we're specifically looking for a certain type of bachelor's degree, but I think just looking that maybe they've had a little secondary education.
And I certainly understand that, but I don't want you to put yourself in a position where you have to do a lot of training for somebody who's going to take this position, because that takes a lot of time, as you and I both know, to be an assessor and to get it correct.
Sometimes it's worth it to train the right person, though, too. You know, somebody took a chance at training me, so, and it worked out for me.
For us. Sorry.
Right, that's correct, really.
Okay. Anybody else?
Chair, I don't,
1 second.
okay.
Anybody else?
I'm okay.
All right, go ahead.
I don't think there's a degree, a bachelor's degree in assessing, is there?
No, no.
We're just looking for people who have good communication skills, who can talk to people, who can use the technology, and who are adaptable and flexible and can work in a team, basically, those kind of qualities.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there is, through the chair, a tremendous amount of additional training to be an
Yeah,
assessor.
I know.
Go from level 1 to level 4, and I can tell you she's probably equal to a 4 or 5 year college degree,
Yeah, I know.
specialty.
I think you've made a mistake on my assessment. No.
Okay. Oh. All right. We have a motion by trustee Frazier. It's supported by trustee Miller. Hearing no further comments, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item is to consider approval of a new position for as executive assistant to the Public Services Director. Director
Supervisor,
Akers? Yes. It's Clerk Wright.
make the motion to approve a new position of executive assistant of public service director, and also authorize HR director to post the position.
Trustee Martin? Okay.
Before, can we have discussion beforehand?
Actually,
Before
gonna,
he explains it, I just want to clarify the motion, if that's okay.
okay, go ahead and clarify the motion.
Would you please include the budget amendments?
Oh,
Yeah, that's all. Just clarify the
Okay.
motion.
Did we do that last time?
that's okay with the maker of the motion and the
Yeah,
seconder, right?
Yeah, also
Okay,
with approval of with the budget amendments as specified.
okay, thank you. Okay, Director Akers.
Thank you. This proposal is to create a new position in the Public Services Department, and the intent of the proposal is mainly to focus on two things. Those two things are public engagement. As we had indicated at work study last night, you know, we looked at implementing social media to, you know, work towards engaging the public on a number of topics, including environmental issues such as Belleville Lake or any other environmental issues that come up, water and sewer outreach, water sewer projects, and also engage some of the business community and economic development items. The second thing that this project is really intended to focus on is capacity and filling the gaps within our departments. We discussed last night that there are a couple gaps, specifically with regard to inputting building and grounds assets into CityWorks for our asset management software. Focus on some of the special projects that we've been working on as a department, including the Iron Bell Trail, our master plan, splash pad, township signage, museum improvements, the $2.5 million water metering project, you know, many projects like that. And in addition to that, this position will provide some customer response support in the Planning and Economic Development Department and some assistance with project management. This position is intended to be a flexible position which can provide support across the three divisions of the department. So that's Planning, Economic Development, Building and Grounds, and Water and Sewer. This position will have no management responsibility and is really intended to be a high-level administrative position. The position will be supervised by our Public Services Director, who will allocate what they work on. And the financial impact for this position, the change will be a reduction in the Water and Sewer Fund of approximately $50,000 and an increase in the general fund by approximately $16,000, as we discussed last night. The board requested at the work study last night that we look at comparable salaries and provide them for the meeting tonight in similar positions. Our HR director, Director Sumter, we were fortunate enough she was able to provide that for us, which I handed out prior to the meeting. So you do have that in front of you, and Director Sumter will discuss it if you have any questions. And lastly, I believe the board should also receive information. I just want to, I guess, make a clarification that the position will be posted externally, and we will go through our normal hiring process as part of our next steps. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Last evening, and I think the treasurer indicated that we did make, recently there was changes made in the building and planning department, but those changes was based on recent growth. We're busy. They're busy in the department, and we also emphasized as those changes was made that if they got to the point where they needed help, to indicate that they needed help, and they have came and indicated that they need help, and this position is a result of that. So with that being said, I think it's a good thing that we are finally, with you guys being busy in that department, means that the township is growing. And I think that's a great thing for the township, especially if it's with controlled growth. And I think that's the thing that's going on now. We are able to control the growth that's happening in the township. And I remember the times that it wasn't happening. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the township.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Martin, did you want to speak as a seconder?
I support the position and understand why last year when we reorganized the Public Works, the water and the building department, when we reorganized it and we got a director of Public Works, I understood then that it may be projected that we may need additional help. And I think the revenue that's been produced shows that you're paying for yourself and increasing a demand of the public. I think it's very important to for your goal to reach out to the public and to get public participation and more interaction with our community on, you know, building that goes up or whatever. I know that the other night, the Lake Drawdown meeting was very well attended. And I looked over at the sheet where people wanted to have one-to-one consulting with the building director or with the director. And there was a long list of people that demanded one-on-one. So that's very time-consuming also. So our first goal is to give our residents the best service possible and to encourage the kind of quality growth that will make our township outstanding. Not just anybody coming in, but we want to attract quality. And the building department is instrumental in that. So I think it's a good position. However, I do have a question regarding this that Ms. Sumter provided us. I noticed that Romulus pays $52,146, Pittsfield Township pays $57,988, but there's no listing of, you know, what was their beginning salary and what number of years experience do these people have that are in those positions right now?
It does not give us that information.
I know, but you could, you know, I would advise us, as far as I'm concerned, the 52,000 is on the high end. I would have rather have seen it, and I said this last night, at the lower end, you know, 48, somewhere in that range. because we are looking, it's my understanding from the job posting that we're not asking for years of experience. And so we're gonna maybe get somebody who's a beginner. And certainly we have an excellent intern in the building department right now who might be willing to apply for the position. And we want to encourage her because we already know she's an excellent employee and has done an excellent job for us. So we've seen her result. So we want to encourage her to apply. But I think the salary might be at the top end.
Trustee Frazier?
And if we had experience with it, requirement, then I could see 52.
Trustee Frazier, the closest I could get was I asked her to look into what a planning position would be like. And she did find something with 2 years' experience at 54, 58, and 54 as starting salaries. But that was the closest thing we could come to getting those numbers. These numbers ranged up to that we've got numbers that show that these executive assistants sometimes get, well, how much are they, $10,000, $20,000 higher than these? We didn't even give those to you because they're ridiculously numbers.
For communities that
There's
have
nobody
100,000
really has a position
population?
like this that does 3 different jobs.
Okay, well,
So it's hard to nail that number down. So
Okay.
we did the best we could.
but if we are getting a beginning person, I'm just saying, I don't know who we'll get. We're posting the job because it's always good if we have internal candidates to let them stand up against the outside candidates.
Yeah.
And then we can say to the public, we did do our job. We did, hire the best candidate because our inside candidate was the best candidate.
Okay.
And, I just think a beginning, I didn't get an opportunity. I was going to look in the Occupational Outlook Handbook to see what the feds listed as the beginning salary. But I don't think it would be at 52 with just a bachelor's, or I don't know, are we only requiring a bachelor's or in urban or engineering or
The
something like that?
Bachelor's degree or equivalent service, so. it's
And
not
this
just-
person would
it's
have
not
to have
just planning.
a planning style degree. 'Cause
But
the
we're
planning's
not
gonna be part of
saying
it.
a bachelor's in urban planning or development or anything like that.
But we are requiring that they have a bachelor's degree. And just to touch on what you said about the occupational
Outlook handbook?
outlook, yes. The Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers were in line with CWW, and I actually did that comparison last, just to make sure that all of the numbers they had listed lined up. So that number is a pretty solid number. Trust me, I've been working on
I
this the
just
whole
think
day.
I think it's high, but,
We tried to come up, yeah.
I just
Okay.
want to state that I'm not for, because we're going to give a full benefit
Sure.
package.
Through the chair.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. You were next, and you look like you want to go next after that, okay?
Well, I would like to hear, since we just got this information this evening, and I did reach out to you, I'd like to hear from other board members since we were missing this element as to how they feel about the salary. I'd like to hear, if I could, from the other two, so I understand where we
Being a kid that's
are.
graduating college, I can tell you that this is
I
lower.
asked if
So
they
that's my
could.
position.
Okay.
I think that's proper.
Supervisor,
Go ahead.
states here that we would be saving $40,000 from McKenna and Associates in 2 different sections. However, we've had this intern here for the last year, and evidently we haven't saved any money at all. Is there any guarantee to this board that you can and will save a minimum of $40,000 on McKenna money? And I know you can't guarantee that, Director, but if it's in print, then we certainly have every right to expect that.
So $40,000 is the budget savings. $40,000 is what we budget for the service each and every year. I can tell you that of the services, the on-site services, which are the where they come in on Thursdays, does cost approximately $20,000, so that number will be a direct savings. The $20,000 that's coming out of the CDBG that we budget, there are years where we get up to $20,000, depending on the level of CDBG activity and the type of projects that we have, but it generally ranges somewhere between 10 and 20 there on an annual basis, but it's the number that we budget.
And I understand that. Also, if we use the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that would include New York City, Chicago. Is this strictly for the state of Michigan?
Strictly for the area of Michigan, and it's stated right at the top, only
Okay.
for Michigan.
This is all Michigan
All
communities.
Michigan. And actually, there are 10,160 executive assistant or executive administrative assistant positions in Michigan, and that was the median salary range.
And I understand you were under time constraint, but when we get handed a sheet of paper at the board table, figure the time constraint that we're under because we don't have time to
Arguing with your
right.
time constraint, Trustee
And
Webb.
I understand that. And I understand you are under a time constraint like that. And are we going to go out and advertise this to see who's available, or are we going to give the job to Grace?
We are posting this position, and we are going through the normal
You-
hiring practice.
Okay, the motion was included that I authorize HR to post the position.
Okay, very good. That's all I have, but I'm just having a problem with the way that we're constantly, every board meeting, it seems like we're spending.
Trustee Martin, you,
To address Trustee Miller, I believe that it would be presumptuous to think that the intern would get this position. So if you're taking it out to bids, it's only logical that it would be a competitive wage to attract desired and qualified candidates. So I don't believe the salary is out of line based on the comparisons that we have. I think that, you know, you want to open bid, you want to be able to get a large pool of candidates, and you want to not make the salary so restrictive where they wouldn't come, so that's my feeling.
I would agree with Trustee Martin. I think the position is needed, and I do believe the salary is fair.
Through the chair, if I could.
Trustee Miller still has kind of the board, so go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for giving your opinion tonight. I appreciate that. I support the position. You made a wonderful case for yourselves. You showed what the revenue was coming in last night. That was talked about in detail. Your jobs and what it was like on a day-to-day basis. All three of you do a wonderful job, and I don't mean to over-compliment you, but you do. But with that being said, questions were asked last night. My question was, well, you came up with a figure, and I noticed tonight that things were corrected, overly corrected, when it was going to be posted, because last night, that's not where the conversation had gone to, nor what was told to me internally. So, and based on Trustee Martin's just recent response right now, that would seem logical to go ahead and go out for bid, and this is a good place to draw in competitive candidates. But on the flip side, you have to look at comparatives. And we all know that even now we're overcorrecting, like I heard it 4 or 5 times in just a few minutes, that this is gonna be posted, it's gonna be posted. Okay. But when you give us this piece of paper, and I came home and I rushed to my computer because I know this is coming, I don't see it. I called Dan, and he's like, and it's already after 4, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna talk to them right now and we'll get it to you. And you did at that point. And I look at it and it's like, you know, why am I having a problem with this? I know that the position's needed, but, and they made their case to that. So why is this just not settling with me? And I'm thinking it's because of the way of the process. And I've said it all along. I should never have to come up here and have this long conversation with everyone and get everyone's opinion at this stage. That should have been all taken care of in, weeks ago, days ago, with all of us. So to ask for any point, hey, we need to get a salary comparison, we really should have had that beforehand, because the main job of all of us is to oversee the money. I'm not going to question that you want this person for any reason. You made your argument. Nobody knows your jobs better than you all do. That includes assessing, building and planning, water and sewer. So I'm very cautious there with criticizing as to what your needs are, but at the same time, I have to justify the money. That's my job, that's everyone else's job. So tonight, when I get this piece of paper and I have to make this decision now, it doesn't set well with me. Because I know where the discussion was being driven last night. So I know internally, not everything's being said, but we have to make our arguments on what is presented to us. And at face value, it makes sense, but internally, I know different. So I think when I look at this, I can't argue about needing it, but I have to question the amount. I have to agree with Trustee Frazier that it's too high. Because I know this will be an entry-level position. I know it has to go and get posted, and I understand why that was said tonight, but I have to question the amount of money that we're starting off. I believe in hiring entry-level, sure, mid-level, if that was the case, we'll look at that, but we all know where this is going, and I think that, in all fairness, we don't want to start out people too high. I think there's something to say about merit, about proving yourself, and working up to a salary. Now, I've been steady here. I've said it with many of you. In fact, our HR director, Director Matt Best, when he came on board, and there's a whole list, and I haven't wavered from that. Even with your assistant supervisor, when Mr. Selman came on board, I've stuck to it. I just think this is a little high. I'm not arguing that we don't need it. You absolutely prove that. It's just the salary. I support the position. I don't support the salary, and I wished I could have had more time to talk to Director Sumter, our HR director, and I did reach out to her as soon as I could, but because of the timeline, it just didn't happen, and that should have happened. And she probably would have sat down with me and explained it in more detail, and I wouldn't have had a problem with it, and I would have voted on it. More often than not, and probably many of you don't know, is that I am supporting a lot of what you're wanting to do behind the scenes. Surprisingly, I will support it but when I come up here and I have to vote, because of the way the process is carried out, what I really wanted to say yes to, the last 2 times I had to say no to. And that doesn't make sense. And I see that happening more and more and more. So I hope this board as a whole will look at that going forward. I support the position. I just can't say yes to the salary. So thank you for hearing me all out, and we'll go on.
All right.
Through the chair.
Trustee Frazier.
Romulus, I'm willing to bet, has an experienced assistant in place. And Romulus is a bigger community, and they're only making $146.
We're larger than
more.
Romulus.
We are.
Okay, but Romulus has the airport, Amazon, GM.
Larger than Romulus. But a good site.
But Romulus has the airport.
The airport is a city of
Okay, they
itself.
have the Amazon. They have GM is pouring money into
We have Ashley Capital, which is
Romulus.
larger than Amazon.
Ashley Capital is not larger than Amazon.
1.5 million
No
square
way.
feet.
Okay. You can say that, but I don't believe it. But anyway, and it disturbs me, the other thing that raises a flag, I agree with trustee Miller that I don't understand why we're just asking for a bachelor's degree. We have somebody that we need to have urban development or urban training. We need somebody who has engineering. We don't need a English literature major who has a bachelor's degree in English studies or history or whatever, a general bachelor's degree. We need specific skills here to really augment the positions that we already have. We didn't take an intern who just had a bachelor's degree in your department. We took an intern that had urban development and was in that study. So I don't know why we're not looking for that in our job description, a bachelor's with urban development background or experience in that field. You know, it would be more advantageous. And the other thing, that there was a resident last evening at our work study that recommended that maybe we should go for 3 clerks instead of who specialized in certain fields, instead of going for another hierarchy position. Because this is another management level position rather than clerk level. So, you know, I understand the need for the position, and I support the need for it, but the salary is just a big sticking point, and not looking for somebody that has a bachelor's degree with the background that we need. That's another, can you answer why we didn't put that in?
When we did the job description, we listed out each detail that that person would come in at. They are willing to train people as well, because not everybody coming in that position is gonna know how to do everything in that job. Any
I
job.
understand that.
But I'm trying to answer your question. And when somebody comes into a job, no matter where they are, they have to learn. Because this position was made to cover all 3 positions, it's a new position. So the person coming in is gonna have probably 1 or 2 of the qualifications that they need, but they're gonna have to be taught the other. So we're looking at all of that when we start interviewing. We're looking at, are they looking at the job description? Are they looking what it entails? Are they looking what directors they'll be reporting to? So there's a lot of things in that job description. Excuse me. So just having a bachelor's degree is going to get us more of the applicants that we're looking for, instead of pinning that bachelor's
All right,
degree down
finish,
to one
okay.
specific.
Development, what's wrong with
Trustee
saying
Frazier, can you finish
some
up? You're-
kind of
you're
city
over.
planning?
Should be recognized.
Go ahead.
One of the,
Hold
One
on,
of the-
she's,
Answering the question.
hold on, she's answering the question, then we're gonna move on to the next speaker. Thank you. Go ahead, answer the question.
the things with job descriptions, especially if you have very specific bachelor's degrees listed in the job descriptions, it kind of almost limits the amount of applicants.
Into the
that you get.
speaker. We can't hear you at all.
Well, somebody turn, could you?
It
address-
almost, oh, there we go. When you limit, when you specify the bachelor's degree in the job description, what it does is it limits your potential pool of applicants. A lot of times, specifically with, planning and development, there's a number of areas where people have earned degrees in, and they've developed experience over time, either working in economic development or working in, building or zoning or any of those specifications. Now, that's not saying that we won't attract people with that background to apply for the job. Our concern was we didn't want to limit the scope. And we wanted to make sure we had a wide applicant pool.
No,
way
I have
over.
one
You're
other
way
thing
over.
to
You're
say.
way over. And you're way over.
That's like the schools hiring a teacher that doesn't have background in education, or a hospital
And-
hiring a doctor who doesn't
Did
have
this last week to
medical
us.
degree.
Trustee Frazier, thank you. Clerk Wright.
Okay, I think it's, I mean, like we have said it before, it's our responsibility
Sorry?
as the board is to approve the salary, the position and the salary that's being presented in front of us. I mean, none of us had the salary qualification when we as of last night. But I just want to, if you just go on the internet like I did, and you can just Google pay scale, for instance, payscale.com, average entry level for urban planner, 50,439. So if the average entry level is that, then if you want to attract a qualified entry level personnel, you have to either match that or put it a little bit higher than that in order to attract someone that you want. And I think setting the scale at 52 is not a terrible scale to set it in order to attract a qualified person in order to fill this position. There's a lot of people graduating from college that probably fit this mold. Hopefully, we'll attract a lot of qualified candidates and see what's out there. And also, we have one in house that hopefully will entice her to apply for this position. So that's why I'm okay with 52,000, because I do my one thing, do the homework, and although we asked for this information last night, I had time to go on the computer and look it up myself also, even though I know the HR director was doing her due diligence to bring this information for us ourselves. We have a responsibility to do some things ourselves also, and it don't take but a minute to just go Google something and see what's what's the average out there, instead of just bouncing our directors all the time. And I think we need to start acting a little bit more professional in regards to how we treat not only our directors, but anyone that come up to that microphone and do a presentation. As the clerk, and I'm speaking for myself, it embarrasses me to see us talk to our personnel and our presenters the way we do. It's the right way and the wrong way to ask questions to anyone. And if you want to ask questions, you ask them a question respectfully, you'll get a respectful answer. And it shouldn't have to be a direct harassment all the time of the individual that's presenting. So I'm asking that we do that, and also that we respect our policy that we amended ourselves and voted for and put into place. Can we respect that policy and abide by going through the chair and speaking in our turn, and be rectified and be by the chair, and don't overspeak and don't take control of the meeting, and give everyone an ample opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Through the chair?
1 second. We've already gone around once now.
We've already gone twice.
Okay,
We
no,
have to-
actually, no, we're on our second go-around. But wait, dump, okay? I'm sorry, trustee Martin.
Thank you. I think that we're kind of overthinking this. You know, it says must possess a bachelor's degree or equivalent prior work experience. The applicants, we're going to have I'm sure a lot of applicants that's going to have various degrees of experience, education, or otherwise. I think that our staff is astute enough to be able to discern what applicants are going to suit this position. So I don't think you can just say it's entry level. It may be a person that has 2 or 3 years experience. It may not be an entry level. And once again, I said the wage has to be competitive to attract competent and able and educated people for this position.
Good point.
That's it.
Trustee White and then Miller.
Supervisor. First of all, I agree with everything that the clerk said, and also a lot of things that you said. However, here's my issue. When we are handed information at the board table by hand, and we have not had the time to even look at it, much less go through and analyze it, that's the incorrect manner. Also, you're stating in the, I don't know what page number this is on this, but that we're having a savings of $28,055. That may be true in the funding. However, when you add in the benefits, that could increase to $65,000 or $70,000. And I understand in the current budget, the amount of money that you're listing for water and sewer, for buildings and grounds, and for building and planning of $84,945. and you're saying the cost savings in the current budget is 113 for a total of 28,055 in total savings. I cannot buy that information based on the total savings. I think that lists only wages, if I'm correct. That's the amount of saving in wages. And I have to state, Director Akers, I think you do an outstanding job. I think you've always done an outstanding job, and we are very pleased and happy and fortunate to have you as a director in our planning and building. And I hope that we can keep you over the years too. But as I stated again, to mention again, it is very inappropriate to hand us a piece of paper at the board table that we've never seen before, have no information on, and only what we were given to make a decision on. And as I've stated many times, and Trustee Miller stated today, our job is to take care of the finances of the township and spend our taxpayers' dollars in an appropriate, efficient, and effective manner. And I will always believe that, and I always stand by that we do everything we can for our residents. And I would be happy if you choose to have somebody on the board to sit in on the interviews. I'd be happy to do that, and I'll volunteer. I probably won't get picked, but I'll still volunteer, okay?
I just was, just wanted.
Actually, I don't think he asked a question. He didn't ask a question. No. Okay, we're to keep on moving to Trustee Miller.
So, I don't, again, we're to this point, and I'm not going to nitpick over what type of bachelor's degree someone has, or be overly critical of what I think that job entails. You are the professionals. You know that better than we do. We can give input to a certain degree, but we're not doing that job every day. You are. That's what we have an HR director for. She drives that. She's got expertise. We need to rely on her and the team who's behind her. Enough said about that. Now, getting back to Clerk Wright's point about being overly critical of directors, sure, we should look at that as well. Can you imagine how that must feel when you have someone at that podium and we're all firing shots? That's, because sometimes that's how it comes across. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And some of us can be always taken, out of context. It's just the way people interpret it. But going back to the rules, I agree with those. But when the rules aren't accurately and evenly applied, even the best can go sideways on those rules. Now, we set the rules, but we don't always follow the rules. Our code of conduct, we don't always follow. That's every single one of us, including myself. But you can't apply the rules as you see fit with your needs and what you want and how you want to drive it, because that shows, and everyone's watching here, control and dominance. And we don't want to show that. We don't want to be over-talking and interrupting each other and not being recognized through the chair. And that takes a group of us together to enforce that. And no one is better than the other one in thinking they're allowed to do that to the other. That's not the culture we want to create here. And I see that also not being supported. We need to hold ourselves accountable. And that includes the supervisor down to the trustees. I'll do my part. I violated those rules, but I've seen the rules violated, so the gloves are off and we're all ready to push the rules aside. And at that point, no one's listening to to each other. We're only reacting. We're listening to what the other person's saying so we can defend. Where's that going? Nowhere. That's not what we're about. It's not what we want to do. So let's get back on point, get back to the rules, and support each other. But I'm also going to call everyone out when I see them being broken. And even though you might have a valid point, there's a point of order. Enough said. Call the question.
You don't need to call the question
I don't?
because we already have gone through twice now, so
All
it's time to, we have a motion by Clerk Wright. We have it supported by Trustee Martin. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you. We're moving on. We're now at public comment for the rest of the public comment for non-agenda items. We have nobody on public comment. Board comments. Board comments are allowed up to 3 minutes on any non-agenda item that they wish to make. Does anybody wish to speak?
I'd just like to correct the worth of Ashley Capital. Apple, Google, and Amazon and Microsoft are the top companies. Ashley Capital is up there, but their CEO is worth $3 billion also as
Really?
Jeff Bezos. But they're
yeah.
not bigger than Amazon.
No. Ashley Capital builds buildings for people like
They're real
Amazon.
estate investors.
And they're building a million, they have about 1.5 million square feet now, and they're adding another 1.5 million. I think the Amazon building is 1 million square feet, so we've got some,
We've got some good things
we
with
didn't,
Ashley
and we didn't have,
Capital.
and they pay taxes, Amazon doesn't.
You can't have everything.
They can have Amazon.
Chair,
I'm sorry, Trustee Miller.
what was the vote?
It was unanimous.
Nobody voted no.
Nobody voted against it.
I just wanted to hear it.
You know what?
I didn't hear you repeat it.
Okay. You know something?
He
There
asked
is
better vote.
a thing in Robert's Rules of Order that allows a reconsideration before the adjournment of the meeting. And somebody that voted for it has to say they want to reconsider. Do
You know, I
want to
just
do-
read that myself.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if you
No, I
would
just
like
wanted
to.
you to,
Okay, all right, okay.
you usually
I was
do
shocked.
that.
I waited.
No, you usually repeat that, so.
Okay, so is there any other board comments? Hearing none, call for adjournment. Moved by Trustee Martin, supported by Trustee Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are in adjournment. Thank you.